This is Jerod Lakefield, a novel by Don Fensler, Part 15, Stone Cold. This was stone cold, hot as acid racism, at its best and most alive. Usually it was just a vague feeling I had, but today's racism in Great Plains, Kansas was as fucking real and alive as my left and right buttocks put together. There was no shoving to the back of my mind like I usually did. We went up to the counter and paid, as in this all-you-can-eat restaurant you prepaid. After the lady took our money, there was no thank you, no directions on how to get the food. It was a grossly fat lady, her lard flowing from her like fucking lava from a volcano, with glasses the size of fucking scuba diver goggles. I was getting mad at her fucking lack of warmth, but more than mad, I was hungry. I wanted food. I didn't care to make a scene. I just wanted to eat and leave. My focus was on the game the next day, not on being Martin Luther King Jr. or even Samuel Jackson. We paid and went to get my food, and I went to get my food. I looked back, and Jerod was still standing there at the cash register. He was looking at the fat woman, not mad, not smiling, just looking at her. The fat lady looked very uncomfortable. It was like she wanted to get mad and say, "Fuck off," but somehow the situation and mood wasn't right for her. Jerod Lakefield was looking at her in his way. It wasn't tense, but not good either. It was like he was boring fucking holes into her head through the lava-like lard of her head with his stare. Then while I was looking at Jerod Lakefield and the fat lady, some big cracker fucker came up behind me and said, "Those French fries look good." And pretty as a picture of the fucking Prince of Monaco, took three or four of my French fries. One of his friends says, "Oh, Danny." It was like, "Oh, Danny, are you going to mess with a nigger again?" "Please, let's not today." But it was said without conviction, wearily, like he knew something bad was about to happen. In short, it was a funky, ominous exchange between Danny and Danny's friend, and him taking my French fries like that. Danny's friend looked like he was going to shit a brick sideways. Danny was a big, fat, muscle-bound cracker. He looked like a fucking offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, whose body had merged with the fucking meanest, fattest sumo wrestler on earth. He had a Chuck Norris mustache. I think he fucking thought he was the spitting image of Chuck Norris. He had a tattoo on his arm that said "Trash Man." I don't know what that tattoo meant. The atmosphere was definitely not fucking right for me to ask Danny about it. The situation was getting complicated. Very fucking complicated, very fast. And this was just a few days after that fucking near-death experience with Steven, the meth head guy. What the hell was happening? I was speechless with fear again, and foreboding, and more than anything, fucking total confusion. Then I noticed Jerod Lakefield walking toward us. Not fast, not slow. The tons of fun lady with her goggles at the cash register was crying, weeping softly. What the fuck was going on? Jerod Lakefield was still walking towards us slowly. Normal. Everything was normal, like he was coming over to say hello. It was vaguely in the back of my mind that everyone in this cafeteria probably had a fucking gun except us. We were all athletes strong and over 6 foot tall, but that didn't seem to matter right now. This was like a scene that was supposed to happen back in the 1960s in a redneck bar, not in a cafeteria at Ralph's in 2016. Why in the fuck was the fat lady at the cash register crying? Then suddenly, "You can have 4 French fries, but no more," said Jerod Lakefield. "Please let him have the French fries, Michon," he said to me. His voice was calm, like a fucking spring wind in the autumn rain. I looked at Jerod Lakefield. Trash Man Danny looked at Jerod. It was quiet. Danny had calmed down, but you could tell he was not going to let this end easy. Why don't you take your tar baby friends out of here, said Danny. You got no business here. Leave them alone, Danny, said one of the other customers. This is not worth it. The other customer was about Danny's age, in his mid-30s. Shut the fuck up, said Danny, or you'll be next. Next for what, Danny? Asked Jerod Lakefield. He was staring at Danny, his eyes bearing down on Danny like a laser. You are not in a good situation, Danny, but we can end this very quickly. You can enjoy the French fries you already took from my friend Michon, and we will be all done. Listen, we will teach you to bring your nigger friends in here, Danny said. He was no longer calm, but if the truth be told, he was not all that brave or tough-looking now either. Danny, said Jerod, you are not being smart. Now, one of three things are going to happen. They are all bad for you. There is no way you can escape a bad thing happening to you right now. Do you understand that, Danny? What are you talking about, you nigger-loving fuck? Danny said, but his demeanor did not match his words. He looked sick to his stomach and defeated. Three things will happen to you, continued Jerod Lakefield. You are either going to have to back down and lose face in front of your friends, get beat up and lose face in front of your friends, or you are going to beat us up and we will call the police and you will go to jail and you will then in that way lose face in front of your friends. You made a bad choice taking Michon's French fries. Now you are faced with three bad choices, Jerod Lakefield said simply, but with great power. Danny was amazed at these words. He was the dumbest man on earth, but he had the fucking good sense to be amazed. We all were. It was said not as a threat, real or idle. It was spoken as the truth, as if Jerod Lakefield had looked into the future. I have decided not to give you a good choice here, said Lakefield. I expect you are filled with strife and there's vile chemicals in your soul, and you have everyone in this town scared. You are its teacher. You are not a good teacher. You're a role model. You're not a good role model. I've decided to humiliate you and remove your influence in this town, even if just for a while, even just for a little bit. I have decided to weaken you. You have a choice how you will be weakened. The end of part 15.